Hello, I'm John Slayball, lead developer for Dave Dragons, and a lot of you know me as Super Rhino. One of the people on staff sent me a link that showed me this new video that came out, I guess 12 days ago. And then he ends the video with Dave Dragon, and kind of want to make a commentary video on the things he said, because I feel like if I don't make a commentary, that these things are just going to continue to be said years down the road. What I think a lot of these YouTubers did was they watched videos that were put out late 2019 after our Kickstarter campaign. And they watched these, what I call hit piece videos, that they were put out to just try to smear us, scare people into thinking this was another Kickstarter scam. There was a lot of half-truths. They took text out of context, or screenshots and cropped images and just all kinds of things trying to make us look bad. And of course, I was offended, I was hurt, I was upset. People would say things like that about me, about my game project that I'd poured so much of my time into trying to create. Several videos have come out, since 2019. Not hardly any anymore, because people have seen all the progress and they've seen that we're actually doing what we said we were going to do. Every now and then one of them pops up and they just keep using the same inaccurate information that has been gleaned from other videos on YouTube that were made during that time. None of these people that put out these videos have ever contacted me. They've never contacted any of the staff. They just watch videos and then they make a video. They don't contact the developers. I wanted to go ahead and just kind of go through this, watch this with, we can all watch it together, and I'm going to make a commentary. I'm going to stop, pause it, and make comments, and, give you the facts, because I feel like this is the only way that we're finally going to have the truth of what really happened. Let's start, and it's late right now, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just got off work. We set a goal for $12,000 because the original goal was for a very humble game. I had been working, and I was the only person working on it. And I had talked to Jahal, because I saw that he was a modeler, and I wanted to hire him to make 3 custom dragons for this game project that I was working on. And I got a price from him as a contract for 3 dragons. And so that's what when I put the Kickstarter out, it was for $12,000, $4,000 for each dragon. And so that's why we had a goal of $12,000. I didn't even know if we were going to hit that goal. I mean, I was like, are we even going to hit $12,000? Who would want to play my game? This is just like, here I am, a fan of dragons, I like dragons and I like survival games, and thinking, man, I have this idea for this really awesome dragon survival game. I'm taking ideas from all these games I've played, things I like in all these different games, and this is the game that I want to make. I was like, I'm a programmer, I'm not a modeler, so where am I going to get dragon models? I got to hire somebody to make them for me, right? And what am I going to use until I get my own dragon models? Well, there's only one thing I can use, and that's assets from Marketplace. Every game studio does this. They'll use blockout assets, or they'll use prototyping assets that are placeholders until they custom make their own. And it allows people to work on things, because I can code anybody's dragon, and then I can reuse that code because I'm a coder. I needed the Kickstarter funding to hire the modeler to make the dragons to put in my game. And so that's what the $12,000 was for, is for my very humble game project. We weren't expecting $533,938. Not in my wildest dreams did I ever think that it would come to that. And so when all this, we hit our goal a couple days into our Kickstarter, and people just kept supporting it. And so it's like, okay, now what do we do? So I'm thinking, okay, we're at 4 dragons now, 5 dragons now, 6 dragons now, okay, 10 dragons now. I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to be able to make a lot of dragons. And I'm thinking, oh, animators, sound effects guy, soundtrack. I'm thinking, as the Kickstarter, money keeps coming in, I'm thinking, wow, we're going from a single A game to, double A game maybe. And then by the end of the Kickstarter, I'm thinking we might be able to hire some AAA talent for this, project. That is called a proof of concept. That's what that's called. And like I said, I was the only developer working on the game, and I'm a coder. I'm not a modeler, I'm not an animator, and to code a dragon, I gotta have a dragon. And the Unreal Marketplace, it's there for indie studios especially, but even the really big studios use the marketplace. But it's there for people to be able to prototype things and get, something to work on, right? Or work with, until you can replace that with things you custom made yourself. I started working on a game project in 2017. That was 2 years before the Kickstarter. I did not start working on Day of Dragons in 2017. I started working on a game project that became Day of Dragons, because when I first started, I didn't know exactly what I was making. I had ideas. I knew I was going to make a survival game. The first iteration of the game I was making had humans in it. I had to learn Unreal Engine. My first iteration wasn't even in an Unreal Engine. I was using the Cry engine. Then I moved to Amazon's Lumberyard, and then I eventually wound up in Unreal Engine. And so I had to learn Unreal Engine, and then I had to figure out what kind of game I was making. There's a whole lot that happens in those very early prototyping, design, research, and development stages. So yes, I was working on a game project for 2 years, but not Day of Dragons specifically. I specifically started working on the Day of Dragons Alpha in April of 2019. Are you supposed to only make your goal and then tell people not to give you your Kickstarter anymore? Essentially. So in other words, he's saying that he didn't really lie, but essentially it's a lie, because he showed a picture of work that somebody else done that he's using in his game. Game studios do that all the time. You'll use things like, on the screen you have these beautiful trees that were handcrafted and photo scanned by Maui United. His name is Willie Homs, that owns that company. And he's been doing this for over 28 years. And a lot of really big AAA studios use his stuff. And guess what? Those AAA studios have posted pictures of game projects that they're working on with his assets. And they say, look, this is what we are doing. Did they say, hey, we created these? No. They say, but they're saying, hey, look at the game that we're making. And that's what I did back in the early days. I said, hey, this is the kind of game, this is the game I am building. I didn't say, hey, I made these trees. I never said that. But what this guy is saying is that essentially I lied, because I posted a picture of assets that somebody else made that were in my game. I claimed ownership of my game, not of the assets or the pictures of the trees and rocks and stuff like that. Let's be very clear about what is a real lie and what this guy is saying is essentially a lie. Essentially a lie means that in his opinion it's a lie, but it's not actually a lie. No, what happened was we ran out of white skin keys at lower tiers, and because the people that got in early already got a great price, we didn't want to charge the same, and we also didn't want to have the same packages. So we made these combo packs that couldn't be the same price. They had to be more because they had more stuff in them. We put a limit on those as well, 100 backers. Greedily is not the word. Games cost a lot of money to make. If you do the math, developers, they make anywhere from $25 to $70 an hour. You go ahead, take that, multiply it by 40 hours. So go ahead and do all the math. We have probably, I think, like 15 to 20 people on payroll right now. So you do the math, and then you tell me if it's greedy or if it's somebody trying to make enough money to get their project off the ground. Because when I saw that there was so many people that wanted a game like this, I was like, well, I want to make it right and I want to make it good. And to do that, I got to have the funding. I wanted to make sure that we got enough money to get everything that we needed to get off the ground and get kick-started. And that's what we did. We had fans begging us for Dragon merchandise. This guy acts like, this was a money grab or something. We had Kickstarters that were begging us for merchandise. Up until then, I was like, I never even thought about merchandise. But with the demand, I was like, well, if people want merchandise, we're gonna, find a way to do it and make Day of Dragons merchandise. It's not, greed, it's forward thinking. We've manufactured a biolumin dragon. It's a little plushie. It's a reward through our Patreon, and we're working now on our Flamestalker plushie. And they are really, really cute, adorable little plushies. And our fans love them. If that's what the fans want, they want the plushies. We're going to make them. We're going to continue making them as long as fans want them. We're even looking at like 3D, action figures or print, 3D prints and collectibles, things like that. Because the dragons that we're making in our game are 100% unique. It's not like we have a T-Rex or a wolf or something in our game that you can see, in the real world. Okay, so I've heard this so many times. It's kind of funny, really. I mean, they showed the alpha version of Day of Dragons, They show a dragon flying around. They show them hatching from eggs. They show players chatting, actually being connected in a multiplayer environment. And then they go ahead and say, the same guy, this guy named... He made the same game in 24 hours, and I was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me the game that he made, which was, he just took the dragon from the marketplace and the map from the marketplace, and he hooked them up in an animation blueprint and with Unreal Engine's walking in air flight, and he said, hey, look everybody, here's a game. And people bought it because they're like, well, it's the same map, it's the same dragon, it's the same game. No. There was no multiplayer, which took a long time to make, to get working properly. No server, no multiplayer, there was no chat, there was no survival mechanics like eating and drinking and health bars and stamina. So people say there's only 4 lines of custom code in this game. First, that's not true at all. These YouTubers, they act like blueprint's not code. Fortnite, being made by Epic Games, uses a lot of blueprint. There's 2 ways to code in Unreal Engine. You can code via C++, and you can code via blueprint. And good developers use both. Day of Dragons uses both, and not this 4 lines of code that they, people claim. There's no way Day of Dragons could run on just 4 lines of code. So where does all the other code come from, that makes it run? They don't talk about blueprint. And, Day of Dragons, the version right now has a lot of C++ code in it, but the alpha was made almost entirely in blueprint. And blueprint is code. If it was just 4 lines of this C++ code, you wouldn't be able to move around. You wouldn't be able to do anything. You wouldn't be able to spawn. You would have never got out of the egg. If the alpha that was released on Steam in December 2019 ran entirely on those 4 lines of code, then I am the greatest coder that has ever coded a game, because there's no way that's even possible for a game to operate on just 4 lines of code. Absolutely not. So 100% asset flip, no core functions. So that means that, the chat system, the networking, the server, the health bar that you see on your screen right there, the bile, the drinking, thirst and hunger, the stamina, breathing fire mechanic, the biting, how you fly. I mean, none of that is made. I mean, where does he think it came from? You just take a map and you take a dragon model that has animations, put them together and tell Unreal Engine to spawn you in as it, and then suddenly you can fly, run, you got stamina, health, you got a chat system, you got UI. I mean, all this stuff works just by putting a model, animations, and a map together. The alpha did have sound. The tech demo video that we showed in the Kickstarter did not have sound because we didn't have a sound designer until after the Kickstarter. That's exactly right, as promised. I am very, very, very surprised that he actually showed that. But we have been very positive on Steam for a while. We get a lot more positive reviews than negative reviews. We have a very strong player base, 400, 500 players. We even hit 600 players recently. Asset flips don't have this. It takes a lot more than 3 years to finish a really good game. We have a very small development team. You know, I'm the only coder. I'm also lead developer, designer, lore writer. I do a lot. I wear a lot of hats. I'm not a modeler. I'm not an animator. And, you know, we have modelers and animators, sound effects artists, and our soundtrack was made with real instruments and a real orchestra, composed by a real composer. There's a lot of people that have worked on Day of Dragons. Overall, we have a very small team, but we're still making great progress, being that we've, you know, only been working on this game for 3 years. And when I say this game, the alpha game was deprecated. Like, we threw that away. It's gone. That was the humble Day of Dragons that I did the $12,000 Kickstarter for. When I got the funding, well, I have enough funding to make a real good game, and hire people. I can hire modelers, I can hire animators, I can hire all the talent that I need that I don't have, because I'm not an artist. And so we started from scratch, and we built Day of Dragons, the beta that is leading up to the 1.0 release. We built that from scratch, right? You know, we started on that right after our Kickstarter, and then a year later, we released the beta version with just the assets bidder. And then 6 months after that, we finally released the beta to the public in July of 2021. And so a lot of these YouTubers, they don't understand that game development takes a long time and it costs a lot of money. Well, there you just answered your own question. You said, was this game ever a scam? And then you said, well, it is still being supported. Well, scam games don't get support from their developers 3 years after their Kickstarter. So it was pretty much a no-brainer question that you answered for yourself. Thank you.